Charlie's wasn't random. It was scheduled.
He set it up in a way that, like, okay, you're saying something that's actually factually inaccurate,
right,
according to the narrative. Now, let's be real clear. I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird shit going on with this.
I know.
Really.
I almost texted you when the Charlie Kirk thing happened because my antennas went up about, they showed the photo of that kid, or the guy that they have, the 22-year-old, whatever. And I was almost going to be like, dude.
This kid had a rifle with a scope. Now, here's where it gets weird. The first images of this rifle with a scope, I swear to God, it looks like he has a composite stock on it. Like, it looks like a modern 30-06 rifle. There was that one guy who was the decoy. All right, so you got this guy who's an older guy who starts yelling out. Didn't he take his pants down? He took his pants down. This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombing.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place. And then he did this at this thing. So somehow or another, this guy has the state of mind that the moment someone gets shot, he yells out and says, I did it, and takes his pants down or something like that. I don't know exactly what he did. Then, ready for this? He gets arrested for child porn right away.
Right after this happened?
Oh, right away. He's in jail for child porn. Why is that? Well, now you...
The story broke with the jarring cadence of a digital alarm bell, fragmented reports of chaos, of gunfire, of an attempted assassination against one of the most recognizable and divisive voices in American media, Charlie Kirk. The initial narrative, constructed from live news feeds and official statements, was starkly straightforward. A public figure targeted, a threat neutralized, a nation holding its breath. But that collective inhalation of shock was swiftly replaced by a low, persistent hum of doubt, a frequency that began not in the obscure corners of the internet, but at its very pinnacle. In the critical hours following the event, a peculiar quiet descended around Kirk himself. While his organization, Turning Point USA, issued calibrated statements thanking law enforcement and calling for prayers, the man at the center of the maelstrom was conspicuously silent. No grainy hospital bed photo, no defiant tweet, no voice memo to his supporters. It was in this vacuum of first-hand testimony that the first and most powerful cracks in the official story appeared. They did not emanate from anonymous message boards, but from the most influential megaphones on the planet. Elon Musk, the technocrat whose every click is dissected by millions, quietly liked a series of posts on his platform, X, that dissected the official account with surgical skepticism. These posts did not merely express sympathy. They pointed to specific oddities, the alleged assailant's demeanor, the forensic inconsistencies of the weapon, the curious timing of the event. This was not a formal endorsement, but something potentially more potent in the modern information ecosystem, an algorithmic nod of curiosity, a signal to his vast network that the surface narrative was porous. Then, Joe Rogan gave voice to the unease. To his audience of tens of millions, on his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, he mused with a tone of casual, yet profound, skepticism. It's just the whole thing feels off, you know? He said, his voice a familiar rumble of grounded suspicion. The way it was reported, the way certain things don't add up. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying there's a lot of questions that aren't being answered. For his legions of followers, this was not mere commentary. It was a validation of their own gnawing doubts and a call to arms for the armchair investigator. If Rogan, a barometer for a certain kind of mainstream skepticism, sensed a disconnect, then a disconnect undoubtedly existed. But the most seismic development, the one that catapulted the story from a debate over details to a full-blown mystery, came from commentator Candace Owens. She moved beyond implication and into the realm of evidence, or at least the tantalizing promise of it. In a broadcast that instantly went viral, she claimed to be in possession of excerpts from Charlie Kirk's personal diary. She presented blurred, haunting images of handwritten pages, reading aloud passages that spoke of paranoia, of immense pressure, of a deep, gnawing distrust of those closest to him. The most chilling line was a fragment, partially redacted. I can't trust anyone, not even E. She's. The sentence was deliberately cut off, but the inferential damage was done. The single, cursive letter, E, ignited a firestorm. The public's gaze, already fixed on the chaotic event itself, now swiveled with intense, unforgiving focus onto Erica Kirk, Charlie's wife. The incident was no longer a simple, horrifying story of attack and survival. It had transformed into a sprawling, multi-layered mystery, a real-time investigation unfolding in the unregulated court of public opinion, where evidence was subjective, experts were self-appointed, and the truth seemed to be a perpetually moving target. This is a chronicle of that ongoing investigation, a document of the unsettling questions, the viral clues, and the human drama that turned a breaking news alert into a persistent cultural obsession. The official report may be settled, but the public inquiry, driven by a profound distrust of institutions and a thirst for hidden truths, is far from over. Empowered by the skepticism of their chosen champions, the Internet's collective detective force launched the most comprehensive audit a public event has ever faced. This was not passive viewership. It was an active, frame-by-frame, pixel-by-pixel inquisition. Online platforms became grand laboratories of analysis, where thousands of hours of collective scrutiny were aggregated into a compelling and deeply unsettling alternative narrative. The first and most technical line of inquiry centered on the weapon itself. In the grainy, chaotic footage of the suspect's apprehension, the rifle he carried became the subject of intense and widespread debate. Self-proclaimed ballistics experts and seasoned firearms enthusiasts emerged from online forums, producing detailed video analyses that garnered millions of views. They zoomed in on high-resolution stills, circling specific components of the firearm with digital markers. Their consensus, though born entirely outside the confines of any official investigation, was startling. The weapon appeared to be a non-functional prop. Some analysts argued that the firing pin, visible in one particular, fleeting frame, seemed to be deliberately filed down, a modification that would render the firearm incapable of discharging a round. Others dissected the specific model, an older, less common rifle, questioning its practicality for a lone wolf assassin operating in the modern era. The weapon's finish was described as too clean, the wear patterns inconsistent with a well-used firearm. The theory posited that it was a carefully chosen prop, selected for its visual impact and immediate recognizability as an assault rifle, but ultimately rendered harmless. Was this the keen observation of specialists overlooked by authorities, or the convincing but ultimately baseless speculation of passionate amateurs? The line blurred irrevocably, but the doubt was now armed with a tangible, visually supported argument that spread like wildfire. The scrutiny then turned to the protagonist of the drama, the alleged assailant. His every movement in the available footage was analyzed with the intensity of a Hollywood director reviewing an actor's screen test. In slowed-down, digitally stabilized videos, his behavior was described as strangely theatrical. His struggle with security was not the frantic, desperate violence of a genuine attacker, some argued, but a performative, almost choreographed resistance. His facial expressions, frozen in grainy close-ups, were parsed for micro-expressions that would betray genuine fear or panic. Instead, a significant portion of the online audience saw a vacant calm, a man going through the motions of a preordained script. A comment from a viral forum thread, echoed and amplified across countless platforms, captured the prevailing sentiment. He looks like he's waiting for his cue. This isn't fear. This is acting. This theory of the actor was bolstered by the rapid, unverified emergence of the suspect's alleged online history. Blurred screenshots of old social media profiles surfaced, purportedly showing a person engaged in bizarre, attention-seeking stunts and espousing a pastiche of radical, often contradictory, political views. The narrative of a troubled, manipulable individual, perfect for recruitment into a scheme, began to take firm hold. Was he a genuine lone wolf, or was he a pawn, chosen for his pliability and directed to play a part in a larger, more sinister production designed to achieve a specific political or financial outcome? At the heart of this maelstrom lay the most intimate and controversial piece of evidence, the diary. Candace Owens' controlled release of the excerpts was a masterclass in suspenseful revelation. She provided just enough information to dominate the news cycle for days, but not enough to offer any form of closure. The pages she showed on screen were deliberately blurred, the handwriting just legible enough to be deciphered by paused screens, but with key names and passages tantalizingly redacted. The public's attention immediately turned to the script itself. Graphologists, both certified and self-taught, were featured on various online shows and streams to analyze the handwriting. Some saw the jagged, uneven letters and heavy pen pressure as a textbook indication of acute stress and emotional turmoil, authenticating the writing as a genuine cry from a troubled mind. Others, however, pointed to perceived inconsistencies in the letter forms and spacing between different dated entries, whispering the possibility of forgery. Could the diary be a sophisticated plant, a piece of narrative engineering designed to create a specific pre-event backstory and misdirect the investigation? The very authenticity of the document became a central battlefield. And always, there was that haunting, incomplete sentence, "I can't trust anyone, not even E. She's." The ambiguity was weaponized. E became a blank canvas onto which the public projected its deepest suspicions. The most obvious candidate was Erica. What was she? Complicit? Controlling? A hidden threat? The diary was no longer just a personal journal. It was being treated as a potential piece of pre-event evidence, a motive hidden in plain sight, shifting the focus of the entire digital investigation from an external threat to an internal, domestic one. In the aftermath of any high-profile tragedy, the world looks to the family for cues. Their grief becomes a public metric for the event's authenticity and gravity. All eyes were on Erica Kirk, and in the view of a rapidly growing segment of the online world, her performance in the days that followed was flawless. Too flawless. Her first public appearance was at a press conference beside Turning Point USA officials. She was poised, her voice steady, her words measured and heartfelt, expressing gratitude for her husband's survival and condemning the forces of hatred. To many, she was the picture of resilient grace under pressure. But to the digital detectives, her composure was a red flag. In countless video compilations titled The Ice Queen, her every micro-expression was analyzed. The absence of visible tears, the controlled cadence of her speech, the way she held her hands, it was all scrutinized and found wanting in the raw, messy emotion expected of a woman who nearly lost her husband. The timeline of her actions was subjected to a forensic dissection. How quickly did she retain a prominent public relations firm? When were the first interviews booked? The theories, often citing unnamed sources close to the family, suggested her actions were not those of a traumatized wife operating in a fog of shock, but of someone executing a pre-planned crisis management strategy with chilling efficiency. Whispers of marital strife began to circulate, of private disagreements and tensions that were now being reevaluated through a much darker lens. The question was no longer just what happened, but cui bono, who benefits? The speculation grew that the event, and the massive wave of public sympathy and financial support it triggered, conveniently resolved looming financial pressures or solidified a political brand that had been facing headwinds. The public sphere fractured into two distinct, warring camps. One side saw a strong, resilient woman being unfairly vilified by a toxic, misogynistic online mob. Supporters flooded social media with messages of solidarity, praising her strength and condemning the conspiracy theories as a vicious form of victim blaming. They argued that there is no correct way to grieve, and that her composure was a testament to her character. The other side saw a performance. They saw a narrative that was a little too clean, a little too convenient, and a spouse whose behavior aligned suspiciously well with the dark hints contained in the diary. They pointed to the calm demeanor, the swift strategic moves, the unnamed sources, and the ambiguous E, and asked the chilling, unanswered question that lay at the heart of the new mystery. What if she wasn't just reacting to the event? What if she was a central player in its conception? As the public debate raged in the open, the investigation took a darker, more clandestine turn. The shadowy world of unverified leaks and anonymous insiders opened up, pouring gasoline on the speculative fire that was already consuming the mainstream narrative. Rumors began to circulate from obscure digital sources, claiming the existence of a sealed affidavit, a document that allegedly contained testimony from a security guard present that day. This testimony, according to these unconfirmed but widely disseminated reports, directly contradicted the official sequence of events. The guard supposedly claimed to have seen the alleged perpetrator being escorted onto the property hours before the incident, interacting calmly with a staff member, not forcing his way in during a moment of chaotic opportunity. The existence of such a document, always just out of reach, became an article of faith for those convinced of a cover-up. Was this the credible testimony of a whistleblower too afraid to come forward publicly? Or was it the sophisticated fabrication of a malicious actor, deliberately feeding the conspiracy machine to sow discord and damage the reputations of those involved? The sources remained stubbornly anonymous. The documents never materialized for independent verification, yet their alleged contents shaped the narrative as powerfully as any confirmed fact from an official podium. Then, a new piece of visual evidence emerged. It did not come from a news network or a police evidence locker, but was leaked onto a fringe forum, allegedly from a private security camera across the street from the event location. The footage was grainy, black and white, and shot from a high angle. Its timestamp placed it 90 minutes before the alleged attack began. It showed a figure, whose identity remains unconfirmed and heavily debated, entering a side service entrance of the building. The figure's gait, their build, their general silhouette, online analysts using posture mapping software claimed a high probability of a match with a suspected assailant. Official sources, when pressed by independent journalists, dismissed the footage as irrelevant, suggesting it showed a routine delivery person or maintenance worker on a scheduled stop. But for the digital investigators, the dismissal was itself proof of a cover-up. The timeline was now officially, irrevocably in question. Who was this figure? If it was the assailant, what was he doing there 90 minutes prior? Was he being let in? Was this the moment the actor arrived on set? The questions multiplied exponentially, each new leak and subsequent official dismissal creating a dozen more, deepening the conviction that the public was not being told the whole truth. The Charlie Kirk incident had, by this point, completely transcended the realm of news. It had become a self-sustaining cultural phenomenon, a partisan Rorschach test, where what one saw said more about their own worldview than about the event itself. The mainstream media's response to the burgeoning skepticism became a major subplot in the drama. A clear schism emerged in media coverage. Some major networks continued to champion the official story, framing the event as a stark example of political violence and portraying any skepticism as dangerous disinformation that threatened public safety and degraded civil discourse. Other outlets, particularly in the alternative and independent media space, gave significant airtime and column inches to the growing list of inconsistencies, framing their coverage as a legitimate, even necessary, journalistic pursuit of the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. This media dichotomy did not help to clarify the situation for a confused public. It amplified the existing partisan divide. An individual's media diet now largely predetermined their belief about the event's authenticity. The story was no longer being driven by a linear progression of verified facts from an official investigation. It was now driven by momentum, a snowball rolling downhill, gathering mass and speed with every viral tweet, every influencer's monologue, every new frame of analyzed footage. The original violent event was almost secondary. The real story, the one with gripping twists and turns each day, was the digital investigation itself, a sprawling, chaotic, and utterly compelling mystery playing out in real time on the screens of millions. The core questions remained, hanging in the digital air, heavier and more pressing than ever, yet seemingly no closer to being answered by any authority the public was willing to trust. What is the definitive truth behind the rifle? Can its functionality be proven or disproven beyond the speculation of online analysts? What do the complete, unredacted diary entries actually reveal? Who is E? And what is the full context of the distrust alleged in those pages? Who holds the complete document, and why has it not been released to a neutral forensic body? What is the unassailable timeline of that fateful day? Can the leaked security footage be authentically verified and its subject identified? What does the very existence of such footage, and its absence from official evidence logs, imply about the integrity of the investigation? And perhaps the most profound question of all, one that lingers over every new development. In an age where perception can be engineered and narratives can be weaponized, how does a society separate truth from a compellingly told story? The Charlie Kirk incident is no longer just about a man and an attack. It is a case study in modern belief, a testament to the power of doubt, and a mystery that remains, for so many, utterly unresolved. The official investigation may have drawn its conclusions, but in the court of public opinion, the jury is still out, and the debate is more heated than ever. The files on this case remain open. The digital detectives are still at work, and the world watches and waits for the next piece of the puzzle to fall into place.